Hi, it's Chris Grimm, and this is Deep Work Fast, where every week I bring you tools, tips, concepts, ideas to help you be the best that you can be at work and at home in all the roles that you play. Boss, team member, employee, parent, partner, friend. I don't know. I'm sure that you have a lot of them. So do I. And I want you to be your best. So this week, I wrote a blog. We dropped it yesterday. And Heather, Mission Control, will put that in the chat if you haven't gotten the link already. Just a short read. What I thought I would do is give you some new books to read on our website. But people ask all the time for recommended readings. And of course, we have a whole list of what I call the classics. Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. The list is really, really long. But I thought it would be refreshing to bring some newer books in there, and maybe not classic business books, but things that could be applicable for you in a very practical. This has been happening. I lose my voice during the live. Maybe the universe is giving me a message. Wow. I'm going to tell you about these books anyway. Okay, so the first book I want to tell you about, that you don't have to read all of these books, but I would say to you, if you choose to read one, two, or all three of these books, I promise you that they're going to give you not only ideas and tips, but they all have very practical tools that you can apply immediately in your life, and it will make a difference. I promise. So, first one, the author is Mel Robbins. If you've ever heard of Mel Robbins, it's a she. She is a famous author. This is not her first book. It's just her most recent, actually came out in 2024. Mel Robbins is, I think right now she has the number one podcast on Apple Podcasts, millions and millions of followers. If you don't know Mel Robbins, I highly recommend that you watch and listen to a little bit of any of her podcasts. Talk about practical. She's really, really great at taking big ideas and concepts from her guests or from books or from her own books and bringing them to you in a way that you can use them in your life. The book she wrote last year in 2024, so regardless of when you're listening to this, maybe it's not last year for you, is called The Let Them Theory. Let them. The whole premise is for you to stop worrying about what other people are doing. Stop using your own personal power and your time and maybe your money to prevent, control, overmanage what other people are doing or not doing. Now, why is this on the list that I'm recommending? Well, I spend a lot of time in coaching. I have at least two or three of these deep work fasts. If you have all the archives that I talk about realizing how much time and energy you personally spend trying to get other people to do things. When you focus on that, you start to audit that and understand it. Most people find that it's a lot more than you think. And I'm not talking about the parts of it that might be your job as a boss or a parent. I'm talking about just the everyday interactions that we have with people when we want them to do something. Maybe they've committed to do something, or maybe they're just making choices in their own life and we don't like it. Maybe it impacts you, maybe it doesn't impact you. You just don't want them to do it. Regardless, what Mel Robbins does is breaks it up. I think she made up the idea of let them. In other words, let them do it. Let them make the choice. Let them feel good. Let them feel bad. Let them go to Europe. Whatever it is, the idea here is for you to take back your power, to take back and reserve your energy for your own choices, your own life, and for your own sanity. I think it's a lovely book. It really is not that long of a read. It's poignant. I think for many people, it might be very compelling if, in fact, you need something to remind you, and then tools to help you put this into practice. It really is life-changing. I hate to say stuff like that because most people are like, really? It is. But specifically, it is if you are a natural overfunctioner. And many of us are, specifically those of us who are managers and or parents. I coach people all the time, like you're used to functioning like this way because you think it's your job, and maybe it is, but often we go beyond the boundaries of that. And then, of course, we get upset, angry, resentful when the other people continue to do things, or they don't listen to our advice. They don't do what we want them to do. And maybe it actually ends up bad for them. And then the I told you so's, right? But we're carrying the energy of trying to control. And what Mel Robbins has to say, and I highly agree, is that who wants to spend their whole life and have your personal brand, right, be the person who's trying to control everybody all the time? It's exhausting. So, number one book on my list for you for 2025 is The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. The link is in the chat too for you to be able to just grab that on Amazon. I highly recommend that you look at her podcast and her other books too. I won't waste more time talking to you about that because I have two more books to talk to you about. Okay, the number two book that I highly recommend you download on Audible or grab the book is called The Comfort Book. Now, this is written by an author named Matt Haig. The book came out in 2021. If you don't know Matt Haig, though, first, before we talk about the book, let's just talk about him as an author. This guy's pretty amazing. So he has written business books on branding. He's written novels, I think at least 10 or 20 novels. So he writes fiction and nonfiction. He writes children's books, really great books in all genres. And then, of course, he writes some that some people might call self-help or self-improvement. I think this is the third one of those. And it's called, the one I want you to read, it's a short read called The Comfort Book. The Comfort Book by Matt Haig, published in 2021, I believe. And so first of all, I just think that it's extra credibility for me for an author who is not just someone who does self-development. He's not a therapist. He's not a coach. He's a guy. He's a writer who lives the stressors of life. He's been very, very successful as an author. And so I really, I think that his advice is not just practical in a way a therapist or a coach might give to you, but he's giving it from the standpoint of an author who's gone through all the ups and downs of getting all of his books published and the illustrations done and the real life ins and outs of doing things, not just from the seat of someone who gives advice all the time. And that's powerful. The Comfort Book is an easy read. And he basically spends time talking about how to find contentment, comfort, and calmness in your life, regardless of what's going on. High stress times, crises, anxiety, the stress of deadlines, the stress of other people not helping you, the anxiety and anticipation of events and things that are coming. Like I said, it's a really easy read. It's almost like having a friend talk to you more than it is, some PhD expert who's written lots of books. So grab that book. I also think it's a great gift to give to people. So you might want to read it and then share it with other people in your life and at work who maybe have a hard time. Maybe they're anxious all the time. Maybe they're stressed all the time. And this might be a way for you to help yourself and help other people, relax a little bit, not maybe take everything so seriously. And specifically, and I have done a deep work fast on this, but some people tend to look at problems in everything. They like to solve problems. They like to struggle. And he does address that in there too. Really just seeing yourself and knowing when something actually is bad versus the times that we're struggling, but maybe it's not that bad. Yeah. Okay. Number 3 book that I would love for you to download or buy in 2025 is called Indistractable. So I love this book. I actually have been giving it to people, recommending it to people lately a lot. The author is Nir Eyal, Eyal. So here's what's really interesting. He's taught at Stanford. His book before this one, so before Indistractable, he wrote a product development book called Hooked. And Hooked, so let me tell you about that book first. You might want to get both of them. If you're a product designer, if you're in tech, product, or even in manufacturing, and you make products of any kind, you might really be interested in both of these books. So his first book, Hooked, talks about how to design products that get other people hooked and create habit-forming relationships so that they not only buy your product, but they buy them over and over again and feel that your product is indispensable. Does it sound familiar? Thank you, smartphones. So that leads me to the book I want you to read. It's called Indistractable. I think that also might be a few years old. I can't remember. Heather put the link there so you can grab it. It doesn't matter. I will tell you, this is an awesome book. I think everybody should read it. It's kind of the opposite of his other book, Hooked. Indistractable helps you reduce the distractions in your life, both the internal things that are in you and the external distractions that keep you from getting traction and spending your time and your focus, your energy, your attention on the things that matter most so that you can get things done. Some of the stats in this book around distractibility, I don't want to believe it's true. You won't either. But I will tell you the tips and the tools and the ideas, super pragmatic. And of course, he knows why, because he also wrote a book on how to get people hooked on things. So the opposite is you getting unhooked, knowing how to kind of fight back, if you will, against the things that are built into our products and technology to get us to use them habitually. And in some cases, to use this almost to the level of like compulsion or addiction. So it's a really interesting book. He's an interesting man. Again, not a consultant or a coach or even a psychologist. These are people who are working in these industries, bringing you advice like the one Indistractable that I'm talking about. You can't get better advice on how not to be distracted or hooked on something by someone who develops the things to hook you. Does that make sense? So in 2025, if you haven't already, you probably have heard me before on Deep Work Fast. I'm not a big resolution person, but I am an advocate for you setting objectives and intentions for the year. And I like intentions and objectives that are a little broader than just goals. So you may have very distinct goals for yourself, and I love that. But I think sometimes we need a theme or an intention for the year that helps us behaviorally so that we're living the life we want, not just accumulating more things. Or having a vacation or an adventure. You know, we tend to set goals that, of course, have distinct deadlines or measurability to them. I want you to do something in 2025 that helps you become exponentially better. And if you haven't figured that out by now, that's why I picked these 3 books. So grab at least one of them. And if I can just challenge you to write them down. You don't have to buy all 3 at once, but grab the titles, put it somewhere so that during the year, when you're looking for something to read, that you have that list and you can find it, right? So the number 1 is Mel Robbins, Let Them Theory. The number 2 is Matt Haig, The Comfort Book. And then the third one is Indistractable. by Nir Eyal. And I just got a little note. What am I getting here? Yes. Hi, Bjorn. Look at me moving my Post-its even during the thing. Wow, this is interactive. 2025 is already so different than before. Also, I don't know if you've noticed, but Shasti has cameo appearances in Deep Work Fast now more often than not. And I guess, according to AI, you guys like Shasti more than you like me. Go figure. The dogs are winning. Okay, that's enough. I will see you next week on Deep Work Fast. Grab those books, at least one of them, and let's make 2025 the year that you make big leaps in whatever direction you want. And less distractions, maybe more comfort, less struggle, and less trying to control people. All right, let's go. See you next week. Bye. Grab those books.